Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to the Blazers Edge podcast, part of the Almighty Baller Radio Network. You can find us on Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or whatever you get your podcasts. I'm Tara, and I am joined, as always, by Danny Meringue. Hey, Danny.
You just got to work Danny in there now. I've leaned into this so far that it's showing up on the bottom third on TV now. So, yay!
I think you seem like a Danny.
I was a Danny, then I was a Dan, and then Gulliver brought Danny back, and it's just not dying. So I'm fully embracing it now.
Would you like me to start again and call you Dan?
No, we're good. I just like to have fun with. I just like to have fun with it now.
I'm fine.
Well, in addition to Dan, we have a special guest with us today. Corbin Smith is a writer, editor, podcaster. His writing has appeared in Vice Sports and the Willamette Week. And his podcast, Take It or Break It, is the sports take game show of your dreams or nightmares. Welcome to the show, Corbin.
Your nightmares.
Did I get that right?
Dan, yes. Yeah, it's Corbin. What? Daniel, Tara.
Oh, Daniel. Dan, what is your middle name, actually?
It's Paul.
Is it Daniel?
It would be cool if it was Dan. If it was Daniel, though, because then I could go with like Danny Daniel or Dan Daniel.
Wait, it's Paul?
It's Paul.
Paul? P-A-U-L?
Yep.
All right. Well, next time you're in trouble,
good
just
Protestant.
watch out. Daniel, Paul.
Oh, you're going full government on it?
That's right. Well, anyway, how are you guys doing tonight?
No. Living the dream.
I'm pretty good. Me and my SO, we had dinner over at Bollywood Theater.
And
nice.
And you get to work on a crossword puzzle.
Yeah, when we were doing a crossword puzzle, I was a little late to the recording because I was working on a crossword puzzle. I'm really super professional. It's all very true.
We're glad to have you here. Go ahead.
I will say I forgot to bring athletic shorts. I'm at my SO's house, not to brag or anything. And I really want a pair of athletic shorts right now, and I don't have any, and that's like a feeling that I'm not 100% comfortable with.
Like, because you're talking about sports, is that why you want to have athletic?
Yeah, that too. But it's just like right now in my mindset, my ideal garment is a pair of athletic shorts, and I don't have access to those, and it's frustrating me just like a little bit.
Is it going to bug you all night? Do we need to pause so you can go to Fred Meyer's and pick up some?
No.
Okay.
No. I think
because we want you to be comfortable.
Certainly. I've got some long johns on. I think we're going to be good.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Restrictive clothing leads to restrictive takes.
All right, we're gonna dive into it here. So, Corbin, you had a really interesting article, an article that will be of interest to Blazer fans in the Willamette Week this week.
It's in your blue box right now. Go down there, pick it up.
And can you summarize what the feature was about for folks who maybe haven't read it yet?
Yeah, I sitting here, and I live in Vancouver, Washington, and I have basically all my life, and I went to like Evergreen State College, and I've basically, I feel like for most of my teenhood, I've seen pot go from something that everybody I knew used in some degree to something that was legal and available at corners, and to which it kind of seems like the biggest social problem that's cropped out of it is that occasionally you see pot litter on the street. And it's hard, and I was sort of thinking about the Jailblazers era, sort of 2006 to 2003-ish, whenever Rasheed got traded, as I suppose when that ended altogether. And I sort of had sort of vague memories of sort of a lot of the problems people had with a lot of those dudes being that they like to use marijuana. Rasheed in particular, obviously Damon Stoudemire, was famously dragooned into taking a urine test by John Canzano. And so what I wanted to do was sort of look back at the articles that people wrote around that time, speak to some of the reporters about all that stuff, and try to sort of look back on how people treated the Jail Blazers kind of era from the perspective of sitting and looking at it from a in a world where pot use is just so common that it's like completely not a big deal, I don't think, to most people who live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm like, now the entire West Coast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so were you motivated to write it now because pot is now legal and you wanted to look at it?
Yeah.
Take a second look at it?
And not only legal, but like something that I think a lot of people do, like a lot of adults just sort of do. And I just felt like the sort of place where columnists especially and writers and commentators were coming from during that time, I thought it came from such a crazily heated place, and I felt like observing that and sort of trying to put that into the context of now would be worth my time.
So you went back and read the things that folks were writing about the team at that time, and then you went back and talked to some of those same people, because some of those same people are covering them still.
Yeah. Dwight Janes, who's on CSNNW, along with Dan. Oh, geez. He was writing about this stuff in 1996. Like the term Jailblazers was actually coined by Willamette Week, weirdly enough. But James was writing stuff about players getting pulled over with pot and writing kind of overheated columns about it, like even months before anybody put together replacing a T with a J. And I talked to Canzano, who's actually wasn't really there for a lot of the first parts of it, but who semi-legendarily dragooned Damon Stoudemire into taking a piss test to prove that he was not smoking pot. He passed the test, and Canzano, it should be noted, wrote a nice column about him after he passed the piss test. Going back and talking to them about, I talked to Quick too. It didn't make the story. I felt kind of bad. Jason gave me a lot of interesting material I wasn't able to use, but and they all still cover stuff here, and some other people went on to bigger stuff. Colin Coward was working in Portland at the time, and another fella who's Peter Vesey, I think, who's sort of a national writer now. So I was just going back, looking at all that stuff. Actually, but anyway.
What did you learn that you didn't know before?
Oh golly, what did I learn that I didn't know before? I didn't know how much earlier a lot of this talk started than I thought. Like, I sort of associate it with, piss test times and sort of Rashid. Do you mind if I curse?
We can't curse. We are a PG podcast.
I apologize.
Thanks for letting me be the bad guy, Dan, on that one.
Yeah, come on, Dan.
Hey, I'm just sitting here. I'm letting it roll. I mean, I can edit if one slips.
People love to talk about Rashid because Rashid, for his whole career, just loathed reporters, but a lot of that stuff started early. Cliff Robinson got popped in 1996. He had paintball guns in his car, and James wrote a very harsh column about it, where he said this is like a group of guys you would want if you were starting a nightclub and things of that nature. I found out it started a lot earlier. When I started to go into the story, some of Willamette Week's editorial told me that they coined the term. But when they said that, I thought, I'll bet you that was just flippant stuff. But actually, the thing Willamette Reek wrote about it was pretty heinous. It took a bunch of players, including Wallace, including dudes who didn't really do anything, and it sort of like put them in like jail lineups, and it just like jail blazes across the thing. It's pretty heinous stuff. It's not the kind of thing I think could work today. I spent some time. One of the things that happened is that around the time, I don't know if this is continuing to answer your question. Do you mind if I say it anyway?
No, go ahead.
Something that didn't make the article that I thought that was something that I thought the ideology around it sort of hinged on for me is that around the time Wallace and Stoudemire got popped in Washington, I think around Kalama, if I remember correctly, for possession, and they were both just like blazed out of their mind, and their driver wasn't or anything. Around that time, like within a week or two, Ruben Patterson got arrested, I think, for a domestic violence incident that was actually pretty heinous. And it was interesting to read stuff that the nature of, speaking as a sports writer, like sort of the nature of writing sports columns on a certain level is that you take two things that are happening and you string them together. You know what I mean? Like you sort of make connections to reveal things about things. And going back and reading them, sort of reading columnists, I think I'm referring to Canzano right now. Maybe I'm not though. I think John showed up a little bit after that. I'm relatively sure John showed up a little bit after that. So I don't want to be unfair to John, even though who was actually very nice. But whoever was working that beat, you'll have to forgive me for completely not remembering. Like he wrote a column where he strings together domestic violence with basically like comical marijuana use, and sort of doesn't take the time to differentiate between the heinous morality and like sickness at the core of one and like what's fundamentally just like a funny dumb thing that happened on the other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, because I don't want to sit here and act like the organization maybe didn't have a problem with not caring about I don't want to say character because I'm not a blowhard, but guys who didn't occasionally run afoul of the law, or who the guys who aren't Boy Scouts or whatever. And I think not. The guys who aren't Boy Scouts are fine. I love them as long as they're not, bad people. And Ruben Patterson was, for all intents and purposes, like a bad dude. Mm-hmm. But his bad dudedness gets lumped in with just pot use, and I thought it was super gross. And I think that if there's something to be taken from that time, it's that when we think about the way athletes or any public figure or any person behaves, like you need to scale these things out. And sort of have an understanding that something that benign could end up, let's just say theoretically, be legal in 12 years, and something else could continue to be sort of heinous and gross to this day.
Well, it was a really interesting article, and it's something that I've chewed on for a long time of, what would it be like to revisit what we know about what was going on those days versus, what we've learned about ourselves as a society, ways that we've tried to change things, ways that reforms have slowly started to come into this system. I just think it's a I thought it was an interesting look at how things were then and what you've reflected on, what you learned about it. I think everybody should read it.
Yeah, if a player got suspended for pot use today, I think that by and large, the reaction from the Trailblazers fan base would be, who cares? It's legal here. The league is being dumb. Right? Is that a crazy thing to say?
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable. And they would be able to differentiate it from somebody committing an act of violence against somebody else.
Yeah, I think the league
is differences.
The league as a general, in general, I think will go that way to where they won't test for it here pretty soon.
It kind of, I think
part of me, the federal part of it is the hang up.
To notice, but it's hard not to notice how few dudes are getting marijuana suspensions right now and not think that the league has kind of on the low stopped caring about it.
They're treating it like the NFL does as far as testing. It's basically, an intelligence test. Hey, it's coming in on this exact day in 3 months. Don't get hit. And they do it once a year. You know what I mean? That's how the NFL treats it. Like, just be clean for a month.
The NBA, realistically, the NBA should just say, we don't care. Like hockey doesn't care. So it's dumb. Anyway, hopefully it'll be legal everywhere soon.
That's what I'm saying. So. On the federal level, I think the NBA, I think all the sports organizations will continue to have it in their bylaws and as a part of their CBA as long as it's hanging there federally. Like once it's changed at that level, I think it goes away.
The NHL generally does not have a policy anymore. They do not care if you smoke weed in the NHL.
You know what the NHL also does? They
let their players fight.
They televise their All-Star draft.
Yeah, come on.
They did the same thing.
Who would have thought the NHL was doing things right? They let their players fight. They televise the All-Star draft. They don't care about
watches their game. So
we should turn this into a hockey podcast, Dan. What do you think?
Just call it Razor's Edge.
That's actually whenever three white people talk to each other and it gets recorded. That's technically called a hockey podcast.
Hockey podcast.
Yeah, that's what that's called.
I want to move on to the next topic. Thank you, Corbin, for talking about that one. I thought it was very interesting, and we'll link to that. So if folks want to read up on what you wrote, I think it's definitely worth the time. But I came up with an idea of what we were gonna. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with you two tonight, really. I decided that you know how they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I decided to use your format for your podcast tonight on our podcast. So I am sincerely flattering you, Corbin, by stealing your format and
blushing.
I'll tweak it a little bit, but basically your format is about sports takes. And so you have your guests give you takes and then you rank them or you give them points based on how much you like your takes. So tonight we're going to do very similar. I'm going to give you some questions to discuss and I will rate you on whether or not I like your answers.
Good.
And I'll give you guys both a chance to talk about them.
I cannot wait to beat Dan.
I have a feeling like this is rigged in your favor no matter how this goes.
I don't know. I have no idea who's going to win this, but I'm not quite even sure how the scoring is going to work, but here's what we're going to do. If I don't like what you have to say or I disagree, you're going to get a Mesri flop. And if I do like what you say, I'm going to award you a motivating Nurkic punch to the face. So you're either going to get a Mesri flop or a Nurkic punch to the face based on whether or not I like what you said.
My dear sweet boy, Yusuf Nurkic.
And then we'll add him up at the end. Yeah, and I'm not advocating violence. I'm saying this is the motivating kind. He gets popped in the nose and then he plays really well for the rest of the game. That's what you're getting. So any questions?
No, I'm good.
You're the one with the questions.
All right, here's the first one. Will Damian Lillard be selected as an all-star, and who is most likely to pick him for his team, LeBron or Steph? Dan, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I said this 2 weeks ago or so. I had Dame pegged 80% for making the all-star game. I think that's gone up. I think it's almost assured, and the fact that there's a slight that it's possible out there, and Lou Williams, I think, makes it all the more assured. I just don't think they could do it. I mean, three years in a row is Yeah, that's if they do it, if the coaches do it and give it to Lou Williams, then Dame might, for the first time in a while, like have a legitimate gripe about being disrespected around the league. As far as who's drafting him, it ain't gonna be Steph. It'll be LeBron. I honestly hope Steph passes on him like multiple times, just so Dame has like even more wood on the fire, because being passed over by his hometown guy in Oakland, and then LeBron, just the fact that he could take a Western Conference point guard that's kind of a Steph Curry player and put him up against him, I think that'd be the most interesting way to go. Plus, it'd be every Portland fan's dream to see Dame play alongside LeBron.
Yeah.
Well,
LeBron's
in a
coming.
Portland uniform. He's coming, baby. He loves Terry. I guess. I don't know.
Okay, Corbin, what is your answer to that question?
I have a hard time believing Lillard won't make the All-Star game this year.
Okay.
I listened to the Starters podcast the other day, and they all said Lillard should make it. It seems like people at least know enough to know that he should make it over Lewis Williams.
The guys on NBA TV, there were those guys and all the guys on TNT both had somebody else ahead of Dame.
Who picks again? Coaches?
Yeah, this is down to the coaches now.
I don't think coaches would pick Williams.
Like outside of Doc Rivers, who's picking Lou Williams?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And Doc can't pick him, right? Because they can't pick their own players.
Oh, that's right. So who is Lou played for that like their former coaches there would love him still?
Yeah, probably no one.
Yeah.
I think. Did he play with Adelman? I don't remember.
LeBron or Steph? Who's gonna choose him?
Part of me wants to. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm not gonna be like Dan. I'm gonna assume man's better nature. I think Steph Curry has competed against Lillard and has a healthy respect for him, and I think that he understands the spirit and the skill that guy is bringing to the team. I think Steph Curry is going to pick him. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not here to assume the worst about people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I think Steph will be like, yeah, I respect that guy. Let's get him over here.
Okay.
Because that's what we've seen. That's what we've seen from Steph for most of his career. The endearing and respectful player. Definitely not the guy that throws the inbounds pass off somebody's back and walks away.
Chris Paul
or throws his mouthpiece at the fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so.
Oh my God! You guys hate Steph Curry.
I'm ready to give my grades for this first question. Dan, I'm awarding you a Measure flop because I agree with Corbin because I believe that Steph is going to choose Dame because I think he wants to try out the 3-guard lineup. And
yes.
So he's gonna bring in Dame.
There's that unbiased scoring agenda. So this is like the French skating
biased,
judges.
Dan. What are you scared?
I just watched I, Tonya earlier, so I'm assuming like I'm Tanya Harding right now getting screwed over by the judges because I like heavy metal.
There's so many layers to unpack to that, Dan.
I also like heavy metal, Dan. So don't.
Okay.
Yes.
We're moving on. So we talked about the All-Star.
You a doom man? You a thrash man? What are you working with, Dan?
I go back and forth. I had some kill switch engage on the drive home from the theater. So
not for me. More of a doom man myself.
Okay.
If it's not slow and punishing, get it out of here.
I mean, I can go with some Cannibal Corpse too if we want to go like really hard.
Corpse, whatever. I listen to Sleep, baby.
Okay, you guys. I listened to. I went down a rabbit hole and I was listening to.
Wait, did you listen to something
Violent
other than Dolly Parton?
I did. I was listening to Violent Femmes tonight.
Oh boy.
And they had a modern day one like that was just like a few years ago, and the lead singer for Violent Femmes looks just like Woj, and it totally freaked me out. You guys got to go on YouTube.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
never would have
right.
put those two together, and that's glorious
Have you
because
ever
now
seen
I
that?
just
I saw
see him
in person.
breaking news on stage.
I'm totally shook. I'm just like, oh my God, I saw that. And I was like, okay, but we're going to move on. So
I saw them in person once. Really good. Anyway, continue.
Me too. I saw them when I was in high school, and my shoes fell off in the first song, and a woman in front of me had on spiked heels, and I've never had two such swollen feet in my life. I lost my shoes.
Why'd you lose your shoes?
Because they fell off because I was dancing so hard. I was in the front row and I was dancing, and it was like in the Pine Street Theater in like 1985. And
did they not have shoelaces in 1985?
I was wearing some cute little slippers that were really cute, but they fell off my feet. Anyway, we're moving on. This is not the Violent Femmes podcast. This is the Blazers Edge podcast. And the next question is about we got draft deadline trade deadline coming up. So for this question, which players drafted by Neil Olshey are most likely to be moved at the trade deadline? So for reference, that's Dame, CJ Myers, Pat Connaughton, Jake Layman, Zach Collins, and Caleb Swanigan. Those are guys that were all drafted by Neil Olshey. Which one is most?
By Olshey?
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay.
Well, he was the GM.
Wait, who?
Okay, got it.
Neil Olshey was the GM when Dame.
He was also the DM. He was running.
Yes. He came in. He came in that year. So
they were going on a quest.
Yeah.
And he chose Dame.
Yeah.
All right. High five for the Dungeons and Dragons reference there, Corbin. Okay. So who is the most likely to be moved at the trade deadline? Corbin, would you like to go first on this one?
I do. I don't know if I have a good answer, though. This is my answer. It's Myers, because I think that Neil is real into dudes he drafts. And I think that there's only one dude who's really expended his goodwill with the organization, and that's Myers. I think they're probably going to stand pat.
Okay.
For the most part. I hate to be boring sports writer, but
that's okay. We got a lot of questions to get through, so you can be boring on some of them.
Okay.
Dan?
I just don't see Neil. He'll shop Myers because they want to get away from that deal, but I just don't see.
Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah, I just don't see anybody willing to take that deal unless it's part of something else. I think the guys both most likely to be traded are the guys that Neil didn't draft, and that's because of the current status they're in as far as expiring deals. So you've got Davis, Napier, Vonleh, Parkless.
Vonleh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean Davis and or Shabazz. If you're asking me for order, it's Shabazz, Davis, then Vonleh as far as 1, 2, and 3.
I think that a playoff team would. I think that a playoff type team can't really trade Davis. I think that Davis is doing enough right now that he's more or less essential to the team. And unless you're trading him out for another big man who can replicate what he does, I don't think he's going to find himself shipped out. Vonleh, yeah. Napier, I don't know. You always need a third guard, so that could be. But I'm sorry I critiqued your whole answer.
No. It's fine. I think those are the guys.
So Dan, are you thinking that all of?
I think Neil's guys are safe.
Neil's guys are staying.
Yeah, I think Neil's guys are safe. I mean, that's kind of been his MO too. For him to part with one of his babies in Alan Crabb was kind of surprising. So it's not that he won't do it. It's just can he and will he?
Neil is such a weird GM.
There's some idiosyncrasies at play with how he collects or takes his guys. Because Aminu was one of his guys that he took from the Clippers.
Yeah. That was it.
I wonder if I should have included him.
No, I was including Aminu as one of his guys. I was operating under that auspices, so that's why I didn't even go to that.
Al-Farouq Aminu should absolutely not get traded. That would be insane.
Yeah, we're eye to eye on that one.
Okay, yeah. One of the weird things, what's weird about that part of his thing though, is that it's not like he's a particularly good drafter. He just is loyal about it. The thing that he's been best at with the Blazers is finding talent in weird places. Nurkic, who knew? or trusting that Aminu would blossom into a 3-point shooter. Like, that's a savvy move.
Yeah,
like,
or Ed Davis.
Oh yes, Ed Davis too. I mean, you know, Ed Davis has been like a default NBA player for most of his career. Like he's been so much better with the Blazers than I think
pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah, than his time with the Raptors or anywhere else
or
he's
Memphis,
would suggest.
See. I mean, I'm critical of Olshey when it comes to the free agency deals. I mean, I think it's a fair criticism that anybody else out there is looking at.
I mean, Turner's a nightmare, but like, which other one is not so good?
I didn't like Crabbe. I get the whole retention stuff. But I was critical of that from day one too. So, I'm so sorry. How much did Crabbe make at the time? What did it go up to?
You mean how much did he get?
Yeah, how much did he get?
17.5.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a little too much.
Yeah. So those ones were like what? But I mean, honestly, as far as like being critical of him, the free agency is the one that I harp on really. But his drafting has been pretty decent. I mean, to hit on 2 guys in the second round, like.
Layman and Connaughton we're talking about?
No, Connaughton and Crabbe, because Crabbe was a second rounder.
Oh,
because I mean, getting Crabbe where he got him was, I think, a good thing. Like you don't typically find that talent there.
Yeah. The only problem with Crabbe is that he's half a player. Like he's just so bad at defense that the fact that he's a nearly perfect role-playing NBA wing is just. It's just like a sucking hole because his defense is so crummy.
Yeah, I mean, people wanted to place that on Portland and scheme, and well, he went to Brooklyn. He's the exact same player.
Yeah,
there's literally no difference. So
yeah,
I would for those that are still wondering about Alan Crabbe, it wasn't a Portland problem. It was a Crabbe problem.
Okay, I'm going to hit the buzzer on this question. And I'm going to give you both a Nurkic because I think you both are right. I believe that Neil is staying with his core. And I think one of the things that he's been consistent in saying is that he's going to build up his core. And I think he's going to hang on to it. I don't think he has much choice anymore, but I think he really is going to do it. So I'm going to give you both a motivating Nurkic punch to the face for that one. The next question, we're moving on to another team. The Atlanta Hawks are having a fire sale. And
fire sale. That's kind of hoping they were with a bonfire.
Which Atlanta Hawk makes the most sense in a Blazers uniform? Dan, why don't you go first?
Oh, I'm taking this one. It's easy. It's Ersan Ilyasova. It's not even close. Ilyasova's the perfect utility player for this team. He's the guy that I've wanted in Portland for years. When I look at Ilyasova, I go, hey, look, it's Aminu with handles. I mean, that's
watch what you say about Aminu.
But I mean,
Ersan's had a type of handle.
Okay, Aminu has added to his game drastically this season. Over the last 3 months, it's been insane. But Ilyasova's had that ability really since he came into the league. But he's a 3-and-D guy that can put the ball on the floor, and he just gets it done night in and night out. And he's on a ridiculously cheap contract. Like guys like him, but his is expiring obviously now. There's other guys out there like Bellinelli. That would definitely fit on this team just for the idea of adding another floor space. But I think Portland's got enough guys that do one or two things really well. Ilyasova is a guy that can do more than one or two things really well. So if you could get him for something or nothing, then yeah, you do it. Or if you can move one of your bigs for him, then you do it.
All right, Ilyasova is Dan's answer. Corbin, what's your answer?
First off, I think Dan is overstating how good Ilyasova is at defense. He has some strings of a reputation going the other way. I don't want to get too deep into it. As far as the Hawks player who I can most imagine in a Blazers uniform, I'm going to have to go with Luke Babbitt.
I guess that's not a hard one to imagine.
Because I have seen him in a Blazers uniform.
All right, well, you're both wrong. It's Kent Bazemore. Obviously, Bazemore, Blazemore. I can't believe you guys got that one wrong.
I'm sorry. I was also going to say Bellinelli because I've seen a picture of him buck naked standing with a basketball in front of his genitals.
I forgot about that one. That one's out there. Bellinelli's another good one because then I get to say, I had a buddy with me at a bar one time watching a game, and I can't remember who he was playing for at the time. He said, who's this Bellinelli guy? And so I call him Bellinelli every time I like the way Charles Barkley says Ginobili. That's how I say Bellinelli whenever Bellinelli steps onto the floor.
I haven't thought much about the Hawks this year. This is a very bad roster.
Yeah, no, it's a dumpster fire. So when they beat Portland, it was one of those things that you're like, oh, this is really depressing.
Like, Schroeder is the best player on this team.
Hands down.
Probably.
No, it's
and he's Dennis Schroeder.
They've had a couple of surprising wins this year, I think, against teams that were like, what? And Portland wasn't the only team that should have beat them.
They do have an excellent coach. Give him that.
Yeah, no, Budenholzer's a great coach. I think the Hawks are in the same position that the Mavericks are in, where their coaches are so good that they're going to outperform expectations and get a few more wins than they should, and keep them from being able to get a higher draft picks than they would otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. Sometimes when things look bleak for the Trailblazers, they're not this week. But in other weeks, they have looked bleak.
Check back in next week, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I wonder if that situation might someday play itself out in Portland. I'm not saying that it is now, but I sometimes wonder if it might play itself out that way. Anyway, you're both wrong. It was Kent Bazemore.
Fair enough.
The next question. How can you not get that Blazemore? It'd be awesome.
I got it, but I don't want to blaze it. I don't want to blaze any more of the freaking payroll away. That guy's crab's deal.
Luke, you guys are so practical.
I just don't have to imagine very hard to see Babbitt,
Luke Babbitt has actually turned into like a successful NBA player. For those that don't know, Babbitt's
so proud of him.
Like 9th or 10th for all-time three-point percentage now. Like his career three-point percentage is like 42 or 43%. He's a staggeringly good shooter, which what he was drafted for, but he's no longer scared by the Chalupa curse and has been freed of it.
Did you guys ever go to any games around the time he was on the team?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah. I lived for the Chalupa Luke Babbitt.
Yeah, they played the Star Wars music. It was awesome.
But if you got there before the game and watched warm-ups, he was out there taking three-pointers, like clearly like a sort of maniacal dude about that stuff. It was hard not to sort of see that wafting off of him.
Every time I see him, I'm like, I am so proud of him for making himself a nice NBA career.
And for leaning into the bowl haircut. Like he just went with it. Like I'm gonna do this. So
okay, ready for the next question?
Do it.
The title of most improved player on the team goes to Corbin. Why don't you go first?
Corbin's starting on this one.
I would love to.
Most improved player.
This one's a tough one.
I'm tempted to say Aminu, but I don't want to underrate Aminu's career before this.
Just keep saying nice things about Aminu. I love saying things about him.
Yeah, he's like a fabulous player. And him adding a 3-point shot is like the difference between
him adding a Euro step made my season so far.
just beautiful. But a 3-point shot especially is like the difference between being a dude who makes $7 million and a dude who makes $15 to $17 million. But you know who I'm actually gonna say, because from a pure percentage improvement standpoint, it's Connaughton, because Connaughton spent the first 2 years of his career being like a dude who everybody looked at and said like, oh, at least he can go play baseball. But now he's like jumping up on the bench, getting some good burn in. It's admirable, like he's fashioned himself into an NBA player all of a sudden. It was very surprising. There was no player on this team who I thought would be an NBA player less than Connaughton. And in part because he had an out. Like at any point he could have said, I am going to go pitch.
Yeah, he's not a 13th round pitcher. Like he's a legitimate top flight prospect. So he could go and he could go abuse his arm in relief for a while and make a substantial amount of money. Like he'd make more in baseball than he would in basketball.
We'll see. I mean, because a good basketball player makes a ton of money, and a D reliever makes an okay amount of money. Okay. But yeah, Connaughton, very surprised he did anything this year. Okay. Was stunned.
It's kind of funny. Corbin hit on two of the
Dan,
three
how about you?
that I was debating between. And Minu, his growth, like I don't think people understand how drastic a growth it was for Minu to go from arguably the worst wing handle in the entire NBA to not just being competent, but competent and confident enough to break it out during a game. Like the level of growth demonstrated there is staggering. Mm-hmm. Like this isn't high school or college. To be able to do that all of a sudden is crazy. So yeah, he's not. This isn't Zach Collins where you're like, oh, he's developed something new. He's 20 years old and he's got a new thing in his bag. Like he's an NBA player who's been in the league long enough to not really develop those skill sets. I think it's very, very rare.
And who was already a valuable player. Like the Blazers defense last year
when he went down,
historically bad when he went out.
That's what I mean. Like so to do those things and add to his game is really impressive. Connaughton, I mean, he's the player that they wanted Alan Crabb to be. Non-hesitant on the looks he's supposed to take, committed on defense, and creating opportunities for himself in transition at a 15th or 16th of the cost. So, I mean, and like you said, like I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially after his Summer League performance. Like I know Summer League is this, that, and the other, but like he didn't look like a basketball player out there, especially for a guy who's been in the league.
He was legit terrible.
Like you expect that from rookies or guys from the G League coming up and getting their first real experience. Not a guy who's been in actual NBA action pretty consistently as an end of the bench guy. But I'm going with Shabazz. Shabazz has shown that he can be a legit 6th or 7th man on just about any team in the league. Get that money next season, Shabazz. I want you back in Portland, but get your payday. But he has stepped in and been more than admirable for Dame while he was out. But now they're running these 3-guard lineups where he's on the floor with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, and he's still like, I can still jack shots up. Like, I'm comfortable. Like, the confidence level that he displays night in and night out is a guy that belongs in the league. And not only that, he's taking and making shots. He's creating for others. I mean, he's throwing behind-the-back passes. Yes, they're flashy, but they're also the right pass to make. Like, he has that added chutzpah, because I can't say other things, that really show out for him. But they're also like they kind of like build upon the legend of Shabazz, and that's probably been one of the most joyous things for me this season. Even if I hate his commercial and it drives me crazy. The more that people sing it at me, the more I despise it. But the idea that if you would have asked somebody, before the season started, or you were going to tell somebody, hey, Shabazz is going to be a guy that when Dame's out is going to average almost 20 a game and shoot, 50, 40, 80 from the field. I don't think a single sane person would take that and be like, oh, yeah, certainly. That's definitely going to happen. No, nobody would have thought that. So the fact that he's been able to come in and be like Portland's legit 6th man off the bench as far as scoring is concerned, that's my most improved guy. And honestly, I think he has a case for most improved in the NBA. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll definitely get some votes because he's caught the eye of a lot of executives around the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are liking what Shabazz is doing.
Can I talk about Napier in an extended way, perhaps? Can I say something else, Napier? What a weird career. Literally seems like he got drafted by the Heat because the Heat wanted to do something LeBron would like. Was immediately like thrown to the back of the bench when LeBron did not sign with the Heat. And then just sort of drifted for a while, and now all of a sudden is a good NBA
LeBron,
player.
the GM, is actually weird. Kind of decent.
Yeah,
it is kind of weird that another guy from Florida, from the Florida outreaches of the NBA, has come to Portland and succeeded. So that recruiting pipeline is set up awful nice. Yep.
Dwight Howard next. Let's get him. Dwight Howard, baby.
Okay, I'm gonna rule my judgment. I'm gonna pass my judgment on the answers to this question. Corbin, you get a Nurkic, partly for flattering Aminu, because you always get extra points for that, and because I think from last year to this year, I think Connaughton has shown the most growth. Dan, you get a Mesri for doubting Napier in the first place, because I've been saying since he came to our team that Shabazz Napier is a good player.
I'm the one that wrote the article about the guy talking about how good he was going to be when he got to Portland.
Please, Dan, try to have some dignity.
You're taking shots at me. Come on now.
There was something else you said, but I forgot to write it down. That was
probably
like,
Aminu's dribbling.
He's going down on this one. I can't remember what it was. But one thing I was kind of wondering to see if either of you guys were going to take the tactic of who's improved most from the beginning of this season till now, because I think season over season is one thing, but from the beginning of the season until now, there's another player who's shown a lot of growth. And that would be Zach Collins. I think from the day that Zach Collins stepped on as a trailblazer, he was not somebody that I looked at like I looked at Shabazz Napier and was like, oh, Shabazz Napier is a good player. You know, the jury was still out on Zach Collins, and, you know, steadily, it's not like he's an all-star or anything, but he has shown steady growth from the time that he has been here.
My theory on Collins has always been that sometime early in the season, like a grizzled old assistant coach came up to him and like put his arm around him and pointed at Myers across the gym and said, "Boy, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't go there, Corbin.
If you don't work hard, that's what you'll end up as, boy." And he, and ever since then, he's been having nightmares. Just night after night, and he's done everything he can to make himself work in the league.
I'd like to think that it was just hard work and being paired up with Ed Davis on a nightly basis.
This just popped us. We got to touch on this a little bit as far as like national people talking about Damian Lillard. Apparently, Jalen Rose put out a video on YouTube, says that the title of the video is, obviously I haven't watched it yet because it just popped up. Jalen Rose makes impassioned plea to put Damian Lillard in NBA All-Star game. So the guy that Kobe dropped 81 on is saying that Dame should be in the game. So I chalk that up for another guy.
How dare you?
Wait, how dare who?
I don't know, you. First off, complimenting Kobe.
Is it complimenting Kobe or is it just putting more shade on Jalen? Because I didn't say Kobe. I said the guy who had 81 dropped on him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I love the fact, though, that Jalen called out Paul Pierce the other night. I thought that was brilliant.
So good. That was so good.
That's brilliant. And we do have a tribute video question coming up, so hold that thought. But before we
Pierce was so farty about it anyway.
I know. Okay, we're moving on. On a scale of 0 to 17 million, how much is Evan Turner contributing to the team this season? Corbin, I think you're up first.
God.
This season.
Okay, there's ways that you could formulate this answer where you could theoretically say that he was contributing like negative $5 million because you could say that he is $7 million overpaid and therefore 12 anyway 7 minus 12, but I'm not going to be that cruel. I don't know, man. 6 probably is where I would end up if I was being totally judicious about it. Honestly, the fact that he makes so much money, and also that the Blazers are the hen on the wing, is a obstacle to having modern wing play on the team at all. And so it's hard to, I always feel like such a dork when I talk about that. So I did a Blazers podcast the other day with Gunderson and Seth Johnston, and I started to complain about Turner, and they said, Corbin, you are always complaining about dudes who just shoot threes. Like Turner represents on a certain level what you personally want basketball to be a little bit more. And that's kind of true, except that he plays for the team I root for. and is an active non-contributor on the team that I root for, like gunking up their spacing and taking up possessions with his like avant-garde baseline possessions or whatever. Like if he was on any other team, I'd be like, yeah, Evan Turner's a gift, but he's on my team and he is not a gift. So I don't know. I would say $6 million. It would be really great if any of the other wings were any good right now. If they Blazers make a trade, it obviously needs to be for a reasonably talented wing, because Turner, and I think that Turner could contribute something if he was coming off the bench. I think right now he is doing too much because Harkless is the most Maurice Harkless player who's ever lived. and because everyone else is either a little young or in some way dysfunctional, and so $6 million, I guess.
Okay. 6 million. Dan, what's your answer?
Well, I mean, you asked me a couple weeks ago what it would take for Evan Turner, like box score wise, to justify his contract. And at that point in time, so I'll use that kind of as the barometer. If you're making that money, I kind of looked around the league at who was making that kind of money, and it was like, okay, what's the value? What's the production for that value? And I figured it was like around 18, 5, and 5. 17 points, 18 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, if you're looking for the box score production. Now, if I told you heading into this year that Evan Turner would be a starter and would be a mostly integral part of the offense while he's out on the floor, that he would score less than Al-Farouq Aminu per game, how would you think the season's going?
Bad.
So Turner's averaging 9 a game. Aminu's averaging 10 a game. So this is kind of a weird spot. Like if you look at his box score numbers, like Turner's shooting 50% from the field almost. He's shooting 85% from the line. He's contributing a couple assists and a couple rebounds, but like those auxiliary categories, like what you brought him in for, because you didn't really bring him in for his scoring, but you paid him like he was going to score.
What a weird contract. Every time I think about it, it drives me nuts.
So that's why I'm saying, like, look at a guy like Evan Fournier, who's basically making the same amount. Like, are those the same player? Does Evan Turner's defense, which is better than Evan Fournier's, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that, but is his defense, like, that much more valuable, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I think I'm probably in the same neighborhood as you. I do value his defense higher than I would in other instances because Portland does lack somebody on this team with the requisite size to guard multiple positions outside of Al-Farouq Aminu. Like, Harkless can do it.
Who has to play forward.
So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, I want more out of him, clearly. But I also don't hold it against him for taking that contract. Like if I'm a private contractor and somebody offers me double what I'm worth to do a job, I'm not going to not take it. So, I mean, I don't blame him.
So you agree with 6?
6 to 7, I think, is the number that I'm falling around in. Because, I mean, look at what Aminu's given you.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the problem is? That all of the numbers you rattled off don't matter because he doesn't shoot 35% from 3. Like, that's what you need now. And on a certain level, like, saying this into a microphone frustrates me because it frustrates me that a small forward more or less has to shoot 45% from 3 to be genuinely valuable. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's dumb on a certain level. But here I am watching Evan Turner, like, throw up crank out these weird possessions where he doesn't just spot up and shoot a 3, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, if he was like LaMarcus Aldridge's production, I think is undervalued because of what his game revolves around, which is the mid-range jumper.
I refuse to agree with this and
to
even
acknowledge his existence.
Degree.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with who that is.
But
wow, you were hurt.
No, I wasn't hurt. No. No. If Evan Turner is the kind of player where I say, like, where I say like, I wish modernity could allow for this to happen. Like LaMarcus Aldridge is the kind of player who I look at him and say, I'm glad modernity has mostly gotten rid of that guy.
Wow.
He is the most.
Well, if I had given you a Nurkic before, I would have definitely taken away, but I've already taken it away from you, so you can just keep on going. It's not gonna. You're not gonna get a higher score.
He's heinous. His game is gross. It's yucky. It's bad. All those long twos are gross. He can't dribble. He doesn't do anything interesting. He's a boring interview. He could just as well.
That's the crux of it right there, folks. The boring interview. Whereas Evan Turner's entertainment value is drastically higher.
I don't know if you know this or not. Sports are supposed to be entertaining. I know that LaMarcus was on the team for a long time, and we all forgot that. But yeah, he's not entertaining.
So does everybody have to be entertained in exactly the same way? Because there's a lot of people who like it has to be your way. Okay, well, as long as we're clear on that.
No, not my way. The universal way.
Okay, since now we're slandering two different players, we're going to move on. You guys both got Mesries on that one. The correct answer was 10 to 12 because he is doing. As time goes by, I believe he is doing more and more.
He is shooting much better.
He's been shooting better from three.
It won't last. You see that form? That is not going to last.
But the motivating factor was somebody driving a truck into his pool. I'm almost certain of it at this point in time.
Turner is a guy who needs time to adjust. He needs time to adjust from, change from team to team, and he needs time to adjust.
Do you think he adjusted to not having a pool?
Yeah, he's been very bad for most of his career.
He parlayed a very successful season in Boston, where he was in a system that was perfect for him, with the players around him where he was allowed to operate in his most comfortable position, with a roster that was much more balanced.
He was traded to the Pacers, and the team almost immediately fell apart when he got there.
I'm pretty sure the Pacers were not. I'm pretty sure he was not the final thing that tore them apart.
There were some things.
There were other.
There were things going on in that locker room that were special. Let's leave it at that.
And anyway, I'm the one who's awarding all the points. So we're gonna move on. We got two more short questions.
You know what? You know who else I feel about the way I feel about LaMarcus Aldridge? I just want to say it. David West.
Okay,
get that guy out of the league.
That's interesting. Okay.
Sorry, David West and David. Okay, I'm sorry. I could be mad about David West all day. Him taking less money to play for a contender, him taking practically no money to play for a contender, sucker. That's a sucker's move. It's a ring. It doesn't matter. You can't spend them.
Would you take less money to go work for the New York Times?
You know what? No, because I literally would not. The New York Times plays better than almost every other newspaper in the country.
What if they were like, we just can't scrape it together for you, so we got to pay all these other writers a whole bunch more, so we're just going to give you this little bit.
You take that. You leverage that offer for a job at the Washington Post.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good to know your principles and that you'll stick by those. So, come back and tell us how it goes when you get that offer, or maybe you already have. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna move on. This is the game that's coming up. Yusuf Nurkic returns to Denver on Monday night, and they are taking on the Nuggets.
The Nuggets are terrible.
What?
Sorry, continue.
Okay. There's a lot of giggling going on right now. I'm usually the one who's giggling. So anyway, the Nuggets are struggling as of late. And they're 4-6 in their last 10. They're 23-23 on the year, coming off of a 108-100 loss to Phoenix, right?
Yeah, Portland doesn't know what it's like to lose to bad teams. They have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, that's never happened.
How many technical fouls will be assessed, and who is going to be ejected for fighting?
Oh, this one's me. If the trend of the NBA and the pettiness continues, there will be at least 3 technical fouls. Clearly, Nurkic and Jokic are okay with each other, but Nurkic continues to want to, show out, and he got beasted on by Jokic last game. Like, Nurkic was leading the series pretty handily in their first two matchups.
That first game in Denver, that was a thing of beauty.
Oh God, he absolutely baptized Jokic. Like, for every possession, it was hilarious. But I think Jokic returned that in kind last matchup. Like, he embarrassed Nurk pretty bad. I did not see that one coming. I think Nurk's going to want some redemption. I think he's definitely in one of those chippy moods. I think the team in general is feeling pretty chippy. Evan Turner was definitely on one.
Everyone in the league wants to kill each other right now.
There's definitely something going on. Like, everybody wants to fight everybody, and I am here for every bit of it. Like, this is like a callback to the early 90s.
You know what the dream would be, Dan? I'm sorry to interrupt. The dream is All-Star Brawl.
Oh God. I want an All-Star Brawl because of who each team picked. Like, that's why I wanted Durant to be a captain. Like, I was praying that Durant was captain and Westbrook was right there for him, and he was like, I'll take Damian. Like, just to get the pettiness going, like, right out of the gate. And let's say,
I just want the ABA back. I just want an All-Star Brawl. That's all I want.
I would be all for it, but this matchup with Portland and Denver, it's not as big as the matchup at the end of the season last year, but because things are so tight in the division and in the conference, I think this is a big game for both teams. Portland's been playing well lately. Denver's been playing like crap. Portland's going to want to continue kind of the role they're on, because after this game, it gets a little shady in the schedule again. It's one of those things where you're like, we probably need to pack up some wins, because they have Raptors, Celtics, Pistons, and then Kings, but then Jazz, Warriors, Jazz, and you're like, like, even though the Jazz are down, they're getting healthy again, and they're only a few games back. Like, they're still a better team, I think, people give credit for. So if you can win a few of these division games in the soft spot on the schedule before the schedule starts to pick back up again, I think that's a win for them, more so than just a win in the box column or the box score. So I'm going to say 3 technicals. If anybody's getting tossed, I don't think it's going to be Nurkic. Like, if I had to guess, who's been acting a fool for Denver lately? Wilson Chandler's capable, certainly. Barton, I don't think Will would. Murray's, Murray's
too much love in that boy's heart.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Jamal Murray's been acting a fool lately. Actually, didn't he get tossed the other night? I want to say he did. And then you've always got Mason. You got Plum Dog Millionaire, who's not afraid to go down, but I don't think he would against his former teammates. So yeah,
you actually can't eject any player who went to Duke. It's in the rules.
Is that in the bylaws? That probably makes sense.
That's in the NBA bylaws. Yeah.
I think didn't Henderson get ejected? He's been ejected before.
Yeah, he must have done something pretty. Gerald Henderson.
Gerald Henderson? It didn't
actually happen. But okay, so if we're going to put it on somebody, Wilson Chandler's probably the guy I would go with, because Fareed really hasn't been playing much. Darrell Arthur looks like he's blazed all the time and couldn't care less. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Chandler, and the dark horse candidate is CJ.
Okay, very good. I can see that. So CJ, 3 technicals.
CJ will get in. Yeah, I think that if the over under is 2.5, I'm taking the over on technicals.
Okay, Corbin, what do you think?
I'll take the over too. I think that if he knows what's good for him, Evan Turner's getting kicked out of this game.
What do you mean by that? Please elaborate.
I think that the fan base, they're a little down on him sometimes. I might have just talked about it for a long time.
The Portland fan base?
Yeah. I think they can be a little down on Evan Turner. He makes a little too much money, and he does very frustrating things. But I think that if he goes out there tomorrow and he gets a good shove in on Jokic, and gives him a big weird yell and has to get drawn out of the game, I think that gives Evan Turner some folk hero currency. And I think he could use some right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to say
Related to Jokic, is there a less athletic-looking, smooth-bodied player in the NBA?
Is there a less athletic-looking player in the NBA? I always think Bradley Beal doesn't look very athletic, but
Really?
Well, Luke Babbitt, I guess. I happen to pull up a picture of Luke Babbitt.
Okay.
Is Rasheed Wallace still in the NBA?
Yeah. Every time I look at Jokic, I'm like, he's 7 foot tall, but like he looks like he just smoked like a pack of Newports and hopped on the court.
A watermelon.
Yeah, it's just like there's nothing about you that looks like, oh yeah, NBA player, other than the height. It's such a stark contrast to how skilled he really is, and I've always found that contrast really interesting.
I don't know. Sabonis never looked super fit when he was here.
Sabonis was a god in the 80s, though.
Yeah, but when he was here, when he was on the Trailblazers.
Yeah, but Soviet Sabonis, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He was a bigger David Robinson. Like he was like there was a period of time where he had the Greek god body. I don't think Jokic is ever going to get that. Like he's gonna be the NBA dad bod his entire career.
So who do you guys think is gonna win that game tomorrow night?
Blazers, baby.
Everything in my heart says Portland. Everything in my head is like, you dummy. They're on a roll and they're playing Denver. They're gonna lose.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
Denver
the thing that worries me,
though, like.
The thing that worries me is the Nuggets have been having all of these like soul-searching talks with the coaches, and they're just coming off a really bad loss to a super bad team.
And they're at home. Like Portland is Denver's just a crappy place to play in. The travel, the airport's like an hour away from the nearest hotel that you're staying at. The arena's not right there. Obviously. You're at altitude. Like everything about going to Denver as a professional athlete sucks. Like there's nothing redeeming about it whatsoever. It's not like you're going to LA. And yeah, you're in the traffic, but you're in LA. Same thing for New York. In Denver, you're like, oh, cool. I get to go to this airport out in the middle of nowhere, take the bus or the shuttle an hour into town, depending on when you get in. And then you have to adjust to the altitude that you're going to play in that day, which takes 72 hours or so to adjust to. So like everything about that is not fun. And Denver's had they have the capacity to be a really good team, and on those nights that they put it together, man, they're stupid difficult to stop, because particularly for Portland, because they're strong in all the positions that Portland's not. Like they can just throw like 6'8" and 6'9" guys at you just endlessly. And what does Portland not have? A bevy of those guys.
6'8" and 6'9" guys.
Yeah.
Except Amino.
Except for Evan Turner.
Evan's 6'7", but I mean he's the one guy outside of Aminu who I struggle to say the word trust, but you trust him to do basketball things, whereas Maurice Harkless has the requisite skill set, you think, but night in, night out, you're not sure it's going to be there.
Yeah. It'll be a good one. I think Nuggets. Do you guys think Nuggets are probably the chief rival these days anyway to the Trailblazers?
Who is Portland's rival? That's the crappy thing. But Portland doesn't really have one. They feel like
they're the main ones, just at least recently, because there's so much like. I mean, it's sometimes like looking in the mirror, in a lot of ways. And then with the Nurkic Jokic thing, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like right now
it's probably the closest thing to a rival. I mean, Houston kind of, because they will forever hate Damian Lillard. So as long as Damian Lillard is a Trailblazer, I think you can call that some kind of like quasi rivalry.
You're right. Except it's one of those things like where when you ask a Laker fan if Portland is a rival, and they just laugh and they're like, "No, you're not a rival."
But I think Houston fans
looking at Portland going, "No,
they're wrong." You know what? I think that if the Lakers and the Blazers were playing a series, I think that Lakers fans would find that they had more hate in their heart than they thought they did.
But what do you think about the Denver-Portland rivalry?
I think it has mostly to do with the Nurkic thing, and I think that Nurkic brings a lot of piss and vinegar to a confrontation, and I think that That's a good source of hatred. I'm trying to track down our playoff bracket right now to decide if there's anybody. I'm doing a horrible job out of that.
Okay, well, for that question, I'm going to give you, Dan, a Nurkic, and Corbin, you're going to get a Mesri on this one. I wasn't feeling your answer on this one, but maybe if you can call up that information within a reasonable amount of time, you may be able to save it. But we're going to move on to the last question.
I want to say something before we get it. I'm looking at our standings right now. And right now, if the playoffs were to start today, it would be the first round would be Blazers Timberwolves,
which would be a great series.
I think those teams could really learn to hate each other.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely room for hatred there.
I think,
but I don't think we're there yet.
I think Nurkic could do things to Cat that would truly make him very angry. Yeah.
If the playoffs started today, Denver would be out of the playoffs. They are a half game back of LA.
I think the Jazz are going to overtake them too.
Well, we got a lot more basketball to play this season before we find out who's going to make it into the playoffs. But for tonight, we have one more question. It is the only question, really, that counts. What former Trailblazer
you accepted Jesus Christ as your
still playing in the NBA most deserves a tribute video? And there is only one correct answer.
God.
What former Trailblazer still playing in the NBA most deserves a tribute video? Dan, you go first.
I'm assuming you're probably going to go with Will Barton here. So that's my half answer, but
what's your answer?
In my heart, I want to go with Jarrett Jack.
I'm mad right now. I'm very angry.
That one's for Timmy. Timmy has an unabashed love for Jarrett Jack. It's fun.
Timmy's wrong.
You're wrong, Dan.
Yeah.
Just don't even stop. Okay. Corbin, what's your answer?
I was watching
There's only one answer.
I was watching that Dallas game today, and I saw CJ spend a lot of time talking to Wes Matthews, and it was hard for me not to be a little bit like, nah, CJ, I don't love you like that, dude. So I'm personally gonna have to say Wes Matthews. I understand if I'm wrong though.
Yeah, you're wrong. It is Will Barton.
Yeah,
that's fair. Pull the thrill.
I mean, if you wanted to go another way, you could go Robin Lopez. I think he was absolutely adored, and he's another guy who kind of had a career revival. For all the Stotts haters out there, like look at the amount of players that have come to Portland and exceeded expectations.
Right.
I think every time that LaMarcus comes to town, they should show videos of him bricking mid-range jumpers,
missing end-of-game free throws,
set to yakety sacks, just him bricking 18-footer after 18-footer, and him doing shrugs and being like boing, boing, boing. I think he should be slandered every time he steps on a Portland court.
See, I'm all for slandering former players. And for everybody who doesn't know, I still love LaMarcus despite Corbin's just absolute disdain. I still love and I wish Portland had his skill set alongside Damian CJ. I hope at some point in time they can kind of figure it out. But my true and honest answer, and it's obviously not an active player, but is Brandon. Like I want that relationship to be fully mended and have Brandon kind of come full circle for a tribute video.
Maybe on the night that they retire his jersey, they can do a Will Barton video.
There you go. Have a Paul Pierce, Isaiah Thomas matchup.
Well, you guys, that was an excellent round. If my tally is correct, it actually ended in a tie. I should have asked an odd number of questions because you both got 3 Mesries and 3 Nurkic punches to the face. So I guess that, and you both got the final answer wrong. So, I guess we'll have to have a rematch and on another day and I'll plan better so that somebody has to win.
And I will devour Daniel on this day.
And Like everything else in Portland, people just they just want to enjoy the road and not about winning.
That's right. That's right. Enjoy the journey, Dan. It's about the journey.
Give me the wins.
Well, you didn't win, but how was the journey?
I don't know.
Why don't you take us out of here tonight, Dan?
I thought it was a good journey. Thank you. Taking me on this journey.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Journeyman, go ahead and plug your stuff here.
I write a column at Vice Sports every week. It's called Dunk of the Week. It's about a dunk every week.
Are you going to put Shabazz Napier in this week? Please, 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 please.
Oh, I hadn't thought about it yet. I might.
Well, come on, it was his first NBA dunk.
Yeah, I usually write him on Tuesday, and so I tend to just be, oh man, I might actually have to put Napier. That was a good dunk. Anyway.
You know what I appreciated about that dunk? He actually looked to make sure nobody was coming.
Yeah.
He checked the launch pad just to make sure.
That absolutely cemented him in my heart. I was just like, he was smart enough to look around and make sure nobody was going to go mess it up. And
him getting a bunch of dap for it. It was really nice. It was just such a nice moment.
It was a very good feel-good moment.
Yeah. And I am in the Willamette Week occasionally. I'm in this week's. Go pick it up. There's a nice illustration. My podcast is called Take It or Break It. It's good. You should listen to it. And I have some things I did for Deadspin recently. You should read those too.
Sweet. Tarek, want to let everybody know where they can find you?
At TCB Biggs on Twitter.
As always,
I'm Corbin Smith on Twitter.
There you go. As always, you can find me on Twitter at DMerang. And now I am proud and happy to say you can find me on non-game nights. This is the announcement I was waiting to make. And now I can make it official as of January 30th. Non-game nights on NBC Sports Northwest at 7 p.m. Blazers Outsiders will be coming at you on TV. Yes, they gave me a TV show. No, I still don't know why. One last thing, obviously, to plug here is Blazers Edge Night. If you can donate, please, please, please. This is the final push. $9 to $22 is the range for tickets to buy.
Good event.
Yes, awesome event. Corbin, you've been to Blazers Edge Night, have you not?
I've not been to Blazers Edge Night. I'm not necessarily a Blazers Edge community member.
You can still attend.
I can, but it is a wonderful event. I want to make it clear that I believe it is a wonderful event.
Yes, it is absolutely awesome. Everybody who's heard me talk about it and champion it, it's because it's something I truly, truly believe in. It's absolutely awesome. Last week we had a fan post from one of the people who was a beneficiary of it, and he expanded on the tremendous impact it had on the young people and how much they valued it. So, again, if you have the ability to donate, the link will be at the bottom of the page. Click donate. If you have any questions, the reps there know exactly what's going on. So if you have questions, give them a call and they will get you squared away. Or you can send an email or hit Dave Deckard up on Twitter and we'll get you dialed in that way. For Tara, for Corbin, thanks for joining us. I'm Dan. We'll go ahead and catch you guys next time. Remember, you can find us on Stitcher, on iTunes, everywhere else for your podcast needs. We are part of the Almighty Baller Radio Network. And we'll catch you next time.